This is a homage beat.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World.
Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. You can make it round the world when the holes in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests and events with first-to-market odds and lines. What's up, y'all? It's your man, Lloyd Spence. And listen, all you got to do is find your reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf, all at betonline.ag. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So, head to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BLEAV50, that's BLEAV50, B-L-E-A-V 50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Tell them the noise makers sing.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Furniture Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's name, Lloyd Spence. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
We're so glad to be here with you this morning for another edition of BLEAV in the ACC. I'm here. Kendrick is here. Coach Jr. is not here. Now that he's gone Hollywood. Yes, Kendrick, you are 100% correct, sir.
That is a Charlie Ward humble flex.
Look like I hit the wrong button there, but but you're right. Here we go.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
Guys taking days off and
Jet setting the world.
Yeah, what is going on? No, we're just kidding. Listen, our brothers got a travel day going, so we wish him well and his family, and hopefully he can get to his destination safely and return just as safely. So, but that doesn't mean we're not going to keep.
Statement.
That is true. It did. It did come comfortably. It did. It absolutely did. It absolutely did. But in the meantime, we're holding it down here on BLEAV in the ACC this morning, and Kendrick Haskins with always impeccably dressed. I gotta get my t-shirt game up because you be having some winners, bro. Like that is
I
like
can't even take credit for all of them now because so many people know I love t-shirts. So like people just randomly.
Not just out there in the world. So what you're saying is I'm not putting the right karma out there in the world, and I gotta. So I really love t-shirts too and hats. I'm a hat dude. So
you are a hat dude.
Yeah, you got some nice hats. Send me your hats. I'll rock them on the show, whatever. But I got to put my better karma out there. So there you go. But we got some fun today. Listen, as we stated last week, these are the dog days of sports media summer, and everybody's on here. It's so bad that and I haven't really watched. Here's full transparency. I haven't really watched a lot of sports talk shows the last couple of weeks at all because I know they ain't got nothing to talk about. And then when I finally do decide to peek my head in and see is there anything of interest, I peeked my head interest in a couple of days ago, and here's a Believe in the ACC topic for you. An anonymous defensive coordinator in NFL says Lamar Jackson is not a tier 1 quarterback. I'm like, you know what? This is why
he wins 10 MVPs and he never be a 1.
Yeah, right. What do you say, 10, 12, something like that? It was crazy. And I'm like, see, this is why I don't watch. It's this kind of foolishness. First of all, put your name on it. Don't be a coward.
Yeah, tough guy.
Yeah, don't be a coward. Put your name on it. If that's really how you feel, if you really believe this guy is not as good, because we're ACC and even more than that, we're Louisville, so we're gonna ride for our guy. But we don't even have to. Here's the reality: we don't have to. You've seen him play,
right? And
just
the numbers speak for themselves.
The numbers speak for themselves. Here's the thing that I don't like about both the NBA and the NFL, because Charles Barkley is guilty of this as it relates to the NBA. Why do we all feel like there's only one type of way to win?
Right.
So a jump shooting team could never win an NBA championship. Yeah, they've done it 4 times now.
He still says that too.
It's unbelievable. So at some point, a running quarterback is going to break the barrier. And it may be very well Lamar because he's the best we've seen ever do it.
Right.
So 7,000 yards, 6,000 yards in a season, however you amass them, if it also results in wins, who cares?
And it's one of the criticisms of him is one of the ones that's most annoying to me is about his passing. I'm like, who exactly is he throwing to outside of tight ends? And I know I got one buddy of mine, I love him to death, and he thinks, he ever throws it to his tight ends. I'm like, who the hell else is he going to throw it to? It's all they have.
How about everybody this summer has been talking about, he's really going to miss Hollywood Brown. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
If you watch Ravens games, which I do, he's not.
Is he going to miss his 15 drops a game?
Is he going to miss those drops? Is he going to miss him not being open ever?
Right.
What is he going to miss?
Right.
It's really fascinating to see how but it also gives me peace because I realize we're very good at our jobs, Kendrick. We're very good at our jobs because if they can get on TV and say that, it's only just a matter of time for us. So there you go. Anyway,
do you think there was the same anonymous GM that was hating on Patrick Mahomes too? Because the criticism sounded eerily similar.
I actually do think that. That's a very good point. For those who didn't know, Patrick Mahomes this morning got the exact same thing. Every time he scrambles out of the pocket, he misses his first read. He's vulnerable. No, he's not. No, he's not. And I know he's not because he's already won a Super Bowl, an MVP, and been the runner-up for a second, and he's been to another. So, no, he's not. Stop it. Stop it.
It's just hating for the sake of hating. And then to be anonymous about it, man, that's just as cowardly as it gets.
Put your name on it. That's that. And shout out to Mike Greenberg, who boldly called out those guys who have been doing that. He said, "You're a coward."
Right.
And I love that. I think that's the truth. It's cowardly to hide behind anonymous.
Right. You can just hide behind that and just sling arrows in every direction. I do think it's probably somebody in the AFC because out of the quarterbacks, he takes those 2 out. And so, I think it's somebody in the AFC.
Somebody old. Yeah. Somebody who can't figure it out.
Right. So,
his therapist probably told him to say that. His therapist probably told him, if you speak positive reinforcement over yourself, then maybe you can overcome your fears.
I really been trying to narrow it down because I don't think it would come out of the Steelers camp.
No, they don't care. Because Mike Tomlin has too much respect for Lamar.
Mike Tomlin ran Lamar's pro day.
Right, exactly. I would say If I had to guess, now you got me guessing over here.
We probably shouldn't speculate. We don't want to throw anybody under the bus because obviously they don't want to be they want to be anonymous.
I don't care about throwing under the bus. I really don't, because you're a coward anyway. In my opinion, you're a coward.
I will say.
Put your name on it.
I will say, even though it's the closest to the local NFL team that we have in Louisville, and I was just up at their camp on Monday.
Okay.
The Bengals did play both quarterbacks twice last year.
But I can't imagine they would say that though.
I can't either, but like I'm just saying,
not this new regime.
I will say real quick, when I went up there to they had a media day on Monday, to where we got Coach Taylor, we got Mike Brown, we got the offensive coordinator, and the head of player personnel. It was a great event to cover. I mean, Cincinnati ain't nothing but an hour, a little bit over an hour away from here.
Yeah.
And so you go up there. The food was great. Coach was in a great mood. He was great about the white helmet. He was like, yeah, it's nice, but he's like, there's games you could ask me 30 minutes after the game what we were, and I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so before we move on, because you brought it up, so I'm blaming you for this. I heard somebody say this week. I heard several people say this week, white helmet is the best in the NFL. I don't know about the best, but it is amazing,
especially when they wear those all white uniforms.
I got to be honest with you. When I saw the white helmet, I was like,
yeah.
I
also have to tell you,
that's pretty nice.
And for our two teams, I'm like, could you not do anything? I mean, you all just went back to your old uniform, which I love.
I love the throwbacks.
I mean, if you're gonna get the option to do alternate, do alternate. Don't do. Not to mention those uniforms are so plain.
Well, but I like the nostalgia of it. Obviously, listen, those are our glory days, so we need some glory day reminders right now. So I like the old days. But I do like the daringness that the bank, because can you imagine how that's gonna look on the field? Jesus, that's gonna look. They're going to win on fashion alone. Like, they should probably get 3 points at least just for that. I mean, it's going to look good. So, I don't know.
And then my Cowboys, they just went to their old helmets.
They went with and they went with the white, the blue star white. All white? Yeah.
They've been wearing that anytime they have throwbacks. That's what they wear. So I'm like, y'all couldn't come up with something?
Well, you got to remember.
Colors that you have now. I mean, as much as I love the Cowboys, as much as iconic as that uniform is, none of it matches.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's not. So it's not well coordinated. But I don't know. The Bengals are leading I would say the Bengals possibly are leading in the clubhouse right now.
That Black Raiders helmet is nice too.
Black Raiders helmet is nice too. That was kind of a surprise as well. Like, oh. You guys are okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine that you got a chance to be creative and you go do it.
Well, and by the way, if you are creative, and then I'll share this with you, and then we'll move on with this. But this is fun. We're having fun today. 24/7 Sports. Shout out to them. A lot of times they will do these mashup, what if kind of helmets out there. And some of them that they've come up with, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. Yeah, some of them.
This is really nice. I would like to see them get in the conversation, or at least whoever designed these helmets get in the conversation.
Right.
Because they got some good choices.
I do. It's something about it to me that is fun. Because as much as I love the creamsicle Tampa Bay uniforms, seeing Tom Brady in those uniforms, knowing how bad those teams were back in the day, it's hilarious.
That'd be awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, I like those who take the risk. I do like those who take the risk. And maybe there's another outfit or uniform that's coming at some point with both our teams that we're not aware of. Maybe they're going to
won't be down. It'll be the Giants before it's the Cowboys.
I would like to see everybody take a white or black risk to their jerseys. Just do it. Just have that as an option and just see what it looks like. Because I think a black and white Cowboy would be fire. I think a black and white all black Giants could be interesting. And not with the NY, but with the Giant. like maybe white on the.
And the thing, well, you know, the purists that have a problem with it.
Well, let's move
Shout
on.
out to our man Harry Douglas on First Take today too.
Yeah, doing his thing, man. Is he with the pivot group this week, or is somebody new today?
I mean, it's Sam Acho, and Louis Riddick.
Oh, it won't be a good show then.
Lady hosting, I'm not sure who. You know, they have a revolving door at host. I mean,
Yeah.
Molly will come back for like 10 minutes, and then somebody else is back on.
Yeah. Also, I want to, before we get into our superlatives, I want to give myself a shout out, early shout out, because I nailed this coffee this morning. I don't know why. I don't know. Listen, you're in the words of hold on.
And that was a humble flex.
In the words of Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, you're right. Nailed this cup of coffee this morning. I don't know why. I don't know what zone I was in, but this is a good cup of coffee. So. Good balance of cream. I went with cream this morning. I killed it. Okay, all right.
I'll let you tell it. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'll let you tell it.
And that's like one of your only flaws with me. Like I said, you don't have many, but that is one. We can't share a cup of coffee together, so that's all good. All right, let's jump right in. We're gonna have some fun this morning. We did a little bit of this yesterday on the 5. Shout out to the guys on the 5, where we did like an all-time show, all-time NBA players. We need to do a matchup. We hadn't done one in a long time. You're right. But we did like an 80s, 90s all-time NBA. They were shocked that I didn't put Kareem in my top 5. I make no apologies for it. I didn't. He's not in my top 5. He's not. It was 80s and 90s.
Well, yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I'll give you more 70s. In the 80s, he's more towards the end of his career.
That's what I was trying to explain to them, and they don't listen well, so it's fine. They were really they were really in their feeling like, how can he not be a Laker? I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. But anyway.
Let me guess. The top 5. I mean, it's obviously Mike. I'm trying to get into your
okay, 80s and 90s.
So Mike, Magic.
Yep.
Shaq.
Yep. No, not 90s.
Olajuwon,
yeah.
Kobe in there?
No, not 90s. Kobe. We did 2000 to the present, so obviously they made that list.
Let me see.
Good though.
Got Magic, Mike,
Olajuwon. Right.
Let's see. You got Pippen in there?
I do. You know me so well. See, this is why, man.
And then probably Karl Malone.
No. Surprisingly, no. I went a whole different route. It was you got all 4, and then my 5th was I forgot my 5th myself. It was oh crap, what was it? My mind just went blank.
Bird.
Bird. It was Bird. Yeah, it was Bird. Because I can't. I mean, you can't. Come on, man.
All right.
I mean, as much as he is the most unathletic guy on my 5, you still can't ignore the dominance, right?
Yeah.
So
you know what? I can get with your 5.
And the only reason I put Pippen because I'm saying, okay, who truly was a better player? Was it Pippen or was it in their era? It was Pippen. Come on, man. Pippen arguably was the second best player in the league.
Playing one-on-one, who you going with, Bird or Pippen?
And one of the knuckleheads last night tried to say, man, Kareem would take Pippen right now. No, he wouldn't. First of all, one of the guys said, I'm not going to call his name. I'm not going to call Cam's name at all because that's rude. But he said Kareem would beat Pippen today. Kareem has arguably Kareem has the greatest single shot of all time. The skyhook, indefensible. So if the skyhook is popping, he probably has a chance to win. But if you think Pippen can't guard Kareem, stop it.
Why was that comparison even made?
Well, because I took they were mad that I put Pippen and they were mad that I took Olajuwon. And I'm like, but Olajuwon's impact on the game.
I mean, it's still felt today.
guards, big men, everybody goes to the Olajuwon camp right now. I don't hear anybody saying, man, I got to find Kareem and go learn how to shoot the skyhook. Nobody does that. They should. They should, but they don't. But Olajuwon, come on.
Right.
So that's how I ended up there. But anyway, in the spirit of that, we have decided to do our own superlatives today, ACC style, and we're going to go through and kind of hit a couple of things and see where they land. So we'll talk it out. Now, this is a more collaborative effort today, more so than what yesterday's was. But
we're going to argue with those fools.
Right.
And I say fools lovingly.
Huh?
And I say fools lovingly.
Lovingly, but fools nonetheless. Fools nonetheless. So we're going to start with best ACC quarterback from the 80s. And for me, this is a no-brainer. And yes, it probably does come with a measure of bias, but I think we can arguably back it up with maybe not pure statistical facts, but for sure impact facts. And I think my best quarterback of the 80s is Charlie Ward. It's Charlie Ward.
Charlie's 90s.
Well, he's technically started in the 80s. Technically, he started in
93.
Technically, it was in the 80s. He got to the cut line at 89.
But he graduated. He didn't play.
I agree.
Charlie was trying to hit the top of the Carrier Dome in 89.
True. But I didn't have an 80s that I liked, so I went with Charlie's 80s. You can go Charlie's 90s and make it a balanced thing.
I'm going Charlie's 90s.
Okay. I'll say this, and maybe we can just combine 80s and 90s together right now because they were the next two together. But I'll just say this. For me, because I really don't have a great 90s at all, so it makes sense to say Charlie Ward. But to me, the reason why you get Jameis Winston, the reason why you get Deshaun Watson.
If you're gonna put Charlie in the 80s, technically you gotta put Michael Vick in the 90s because he was 99.
Right. But I can go 90s. I can go 80s, 90s. I don't have any issue combining. Because to me, there is, while I like Danny Cannell, while I like Chris Winkie, this, that, and the other, I don't know if any of those guys had the impact that Charlie had. Charlie and another guy that doesn't get the credit that he deserves, which is Tommy Frazier, they ushered in what is now the modern running quarterback.
Tommy Frazier against Florida in the bowl game is still one of the most amazing runs you've ever seen. Ever seen.
Matter of fact, you don't get any of these guys. You don't get Michael Vick. You don't get Vince Young. You don't get Deshaun Watson. You don't get Lamar without Charlie and Tommy. Charlie, and maybe that's a documentary we need to do. Charlie and Tommy. Call it Charlie and Tommy. Because because they are so iconic and forgotten when you start having these conversations about greatest of all time and most impactful of all time. These dudes, and they weren't just running quarterbacks. They were really solid, especially Charlie.
You could throw Rockets quarterback in there too, Tony Rice.
You can throw Tony Rice in there. They're just better than you thought they were. Mm-hmm. And their impact is, because I always thought Tommy Frazier should have gotten a Heisman, and he didn't. Because he was that year he was performing. My God,
unbelievable!
It was unbelievable, and he never got the credit. And I think it was the same anonymous defensive coordinator that was hating on him in the Heisman vote as well, because he just never got the credit. And historically, he still doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And the same thing with Charlie.
He gets overshadowed by the craziness of Lawrence Phillips.
Yes, yeah. Which, by the way, I totally get it. Lawrence Phillips was a monster, so I totally get it. But man, those two guys, amazing. And Charlie, I mean, there's not enough that can be said about. I liken Charlie. And this is a crazy comparison, but I think you'll appreciate it. I liken Charlie's introduction to Southern football and the poise of playing the position of quarterback to that of Jackie Robinson. He was the perfect person to step into that position and that role and to carry that mantle so that you could look out throughout the South and go, oh, it can be done.
Right.
It can be done.
And Charlie is so far ahead of his time. I mean, if Charlie was coming along now,
Number one pick.
he never would have played for the Knicks.
Not a day. Not a day.
Because
The
thing that separates Charlie, as much as I love Lamar, Charlie was nowhere near as fast as Lamar. Nobody is.
Right.
But Charlie had much more accurate arm.
Yeah.
Maybe even had he didn't have a big arm because Lamar can throw the ball 90 yards in the air if he wants to.
Right.
But the accuracy that Lamar doesn't have, Charlie had. And of all the running quarterbacks, which really means quarterbacks that are mobile.
Right.
I don't think any of them have been as accurate as Charlie was.
No. And I'll even say this. I think at the stage of their careers that they were, that college football stage, he probably had the higher IQ of every of those guys.
Right.
And it was obvious. There was nothing accidental about the things that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was all very intentional. So I'm glad we got a chance to celebrate him this way without him being here. So
and without him being, you know what? Let's give him one anyway.
Just because I think you're correct in that.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
As I sip the greatest coffee ever made. Yeah, absolutely. So we can skip over 90s and we'll jump into 2000s. Oh, did it get mixed up? Looks like it got mixed up a little bit there. There we go. It's all mixed up here. There we go. 2000s. ACC quarterback from the 2000s. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. This is where it gets a little tricky because you have some interesting candidates from the 2000s. Would you agree?
You got some interesting candidates, but I think it's pretty much the only thing that's holding back Mike Vick is because they were Big East at the time.
Well, but I want to take that off. I want to take that off.
We got to take that off. Then it's Mike.
Yeah.
In question.
Yeah, I would say Mike.
Maybe Matt Ryan, but again, they was big. Well, we taking that off because
you know what's interesting about this question? Career-wise, who would you say had the better career, Mike Vick or Phillip Rivers?
Probably Phillip Rivers, to be honest.
See, well, from a stat perspective, I would say yes. From an impact perspective, though, I don't know if I'd agree.
Well, reason why impact perspective is different is because we've seen Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers has been the standard forever.
That's true.
Mike Vick breaks the mold, so it's going to be more impact with somebody who's not just like every other 6'4" white dude playing quarterback. So,
right, and that's why I said, you know, and obviously that doesn't factor into this, and I still think Mike Vick is probably, if you're taking who they actually conference they actually played in out and just saying the current ACC teams, who was the best quarterback historically.
If you take the caveat out and we're just ACC, it's Phillip Rivers hands down.
Right.
It's only. I mean, it's not even a question because I don't even consider Russell Wilson in there.
Yeah, Russell, he wasn't there long enough.
No.
Yeah, he wasn't there long enough.
And probably people remember him more from Wisconsin than NC State.
Yeah, I equate him more with Wisconsin than I do NC State. But I would say, though, if you add the caveat and say it doesn't matter, we're looking at everybody's history as currently constructed, the ACC currently constructed. Yeah, I think it's Mike Vick. Mike Vick, I can honestly say, watching Mike Vick, I didn't think that was possible.
Part of it too with Mike Vick is, can you really name anybody else that was on that team?
No.
Like Phillip Rivers, I mean, he had some good receivers. He had receivers.
I think Mike had one. I just can't remember who it is right now. Because remember, we had our guy Josh Morgan. Josh came right after. He played with the other Vic. Yeah, but I want to say
liked around these parts.
Huh?
Marcus Vick is not very liked.
He is not very liked.
Their parts in Louisville.
That is very true. He is not. They are not fans. But I like what man. I thought for sure. I'll be honest with you, that Mike Vick was going to win the national championship. I thought that team was going to win the national championship because I didn't think you did not.
I was a Florida State fan. You know?
Really?
Yeah, Peter
So
Ward.
That was an amazing team. Yeah, that was an amazing team too. I just didn't think anybody had an answer for Mike Vick. I just like they're so good.
They didn't. It's just Florida State was too potent on offense themselves. They had enough defense. They had a great defense.
They had great defense. That's what made the difference.
There is no shutting down Mike Vick at Virginia Tech, but Florida State had enough defense to balance it out.
Yeah,
where their offense was enough. Virginia Tech did have a good defense. But
listen, and they definitely ran through the Big East like they dominated.
Yeah, but that Florida State team. Well, I mean that was an all timer.
That was all time great team, which we may get back to here in just a minute. All right. So then let's go to the 2010s. Who you going with in the 2010s? You got a lot of options here.
The 10s. Do we include Lamar in the 10s?
No.
Yeah.
Well, oh no. I'm sorry. Yes. What am I talking about? Yes, absolutely.
It's between Lamar and Deshaun for me. I've got to go. I'm gonna go Deshaun because he won a national championship.
You know what? They will forever be connected to me because and by the way, you and I had the pleasure of both being I was not at that game. I take that back. I was not at that game. I was at the Jameis Winston Teddy Bridgewater game. You were at the Lamar Deshaun game.
I was at both of those games.
You were at both of those games. Right. But they will forever be connected to me.
But you know,
I hear what you're saying.
Thinking back about that game, though, Lamar outplayed Deshaun that game.
I was going to say the challenge that I have with giving it solely to Deshaun is that Deshaun had all of the tools to be great, whereas Lamar was it. No, with all due respect to the rest of that team, it was a decent team, but it was Lamar right?
Yeah, well,
it was Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, right? Nobody can name a miracle.
It's like Harold Melvin without the Blue Notes.
It was Harold Melvin and a bunch of guys called the Blue Notes, and so, and then still Lamar took it to Clemson. Like, man, if he had just had a little bit of help from somebody.
Brandon Ratcliffe had a good game that game.
Brandon did have a good game. But there were just weapons everywhere on offense and defense on Clemson. Whereas with Louisville, Lamar was just,
that was such a game, though, man.
That was a great game.
The atmosphere, I've said it 1,000 times. For that kind of a game, because that was, I guess, somewhat of a rivalry game just because of the hype coming into it. The fans at Clemson are like the nicest people you will ever meet.
Really? Okay.
Nicer fan base when going on the road.
Okay.
They're awesome. They really are. Because I was having, even the administration, everybody was so nice at Clemson because I was having a computer issue. I'm down on the field having a computer issue. And somehow somebody within the program found the IT guy to come find me, and he fixed my computer.
Wow.
That
is nice. Listen,
during the game he did.
We know that's nice. That's really nice. That doesn't happen everywhere. That is exclusively.
I always have love for Clemson fans in the fan base. But that game, I mean, it would get so loud, the ground would literally shake when something big happened in the game. I'm sure it probably registered on a Richter scale at some point.
Oh yeah.
That was an amazing game. Still feel bad for James Quick to this day.
Yeah.
Just turn it upfield, bro.
Yeah, just turn upfield, man. And
so now that we've talked it out and gone back, I gotta go Lamar over Deshaun.
I was just saying
Lamar
that
outplayed Deshaun in that game. Deshaun won.
In a little fashion, in that particular game, I would have to go with Lamar. Lamar, to me, the only other player.
Well, that game is what won Lamar the Heisman.
That won him the Heisman. The only other player I can say to me that I've witnessed in college football that was as dynamic, maybe not more dynamic, maybe Vince Young. And that's just because I was in Texas when Vince Young was doing his thing. So I saw him and it was like, Jesus, man, you are different. Like you are very different. And Vince wasn't as fast as Lamar. And nor was he as accurate. So he just did he won, man.
He just made right plays. I mean,
he made right plays, and he was fearless.
He knew when he got the ball, they were going to win it.
Yeah, he was fearless. He had no fear, ice in his veins. He was amazing. So, but yeah, I would go with Lamar in this particular case.
To this day, Vince Young is still the biggest surprise to me that he wasn't more in the NFL. I mean,
and was there ever a quarterback who left college and was set up for success better than Vince Young? Because he should not have landed in Tennessee, right? To be the heir apparent to Steve McNair. Should not have happened. And yet, could not have been set up better. And man, tricked that off like he was at Magic City. So there you go.
You can tell that Charlie's not around. You over talking about Magic City.
I let that one fly because Charlie was not around. Shout out to Charlie Ward. I let that one fly in your absence. So there you go. All right, let's go to wide receivers. Well, is it wide receivers? Am I off right? No, that's right.
That's what it said.
Yeah, wide receivers. Okay. Wide receivers from the 80s. I don't remember a lot of wide receivers from the 80s. Let's look and see our list here. We've got a list. We come prepared. Somewhat prepared.
If you're watching this online, you get to watch us both go to our computers and look stuff up.
That is exactly right. We're listen.
Ricky Prohl.
I forgot about Rick. See, you forget. It's only till you do shows like this that you remember some of the greats. So,
no wonder no wonder you don't remember looking through some of these names.
Yeah.
Big shouts out to
Herman Moore.
Herman
Moore. I forgot about Herman Moore.
Herman Moore would be 90s, right?
Yeah, his breakout was probably 90. But
that's who I was thinking about with Phillip Rivers.
I think you got to go Ricky Prohl here.
Was he 80s though?
Yeah, 86 to 89.
There you go.
Yeah. I think you got there's I can't in good consciousness go Clarkson Hines just because he played for Duke and while the numbers are probably good, I think he's 8th all time in receiving yards. I mean, it's Duke and he's probably 8th for a reason. Like was nothing else going on that team. So I'll go Ricky Prohl with you. I'll join you on that.
Yeah.
What about the 90s?
90s is the 90s is tough because Peter Warrick is definitely up there.
You gotta go Peter Warrick. You gotta go Torrey Holt.
I think Torrey Holt.
Torrey Holt was so good.
Careers though.
Huh?
But am I being biased because of their NFL careers? It's between those two.
No, I don't think you are because Torrey Holt listen, Peter Warwick I like to call him one of the blueprint guys. You know, there are some guys that come into college that they become like the standard by which you start to look for that type of guy going forward. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Peter Warwick was a matchup nightmare. Like he was just a nightmare. And so
and he was a return guy.
say it again. I think you froze up a little bit there.
And he was a return guy too.
And he was a return guy. So
yeah, you gotta go Peter Warwick. Just looking at the stats. I mean, Warwick had 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns.
32 touchdowns. Jesus, man.
Then he had 4 more rushing touchdowns, and he had 6 return touchdowns.
Yeah. I think it's Peter Warwick is not even close.
Right. I think like Torrey Holt obviously had the better NFL career, but in college, yeah, it's Peter Warwick.
Yeah, Peter Warwick was different, man. He was different. All right, so that puts us in the 2000s.
That's probably Calvin Johnson then.
Oh yeah. I Calvin Johnson, Jesus, man. That come on, man. And Calvin Johnson's unfair.
I mean, he's unfair. He's unfair because he played for Georgia Tech, who always wants to run the option, and he
still put up numbers.
And his numbers are way behind Peter Warwick's.
Yeah.
He's almost 1,000 yards behind him in total in receiving yards.
Right.
Had 4 fewer touchdowns. At receiving touchdowns. That's not even counting the other 10 that Peter Warwick had.
Right.
But it's Calvin Johnson without question.
I got Hakeem Nicks too. Like Hakeem did some interesting things over there in North Carolina.
I mean, Sammy Watkins too at Clemson.
Yeah.
We're going to 10s with him. He's in the 10s, my fault.
Yeah, he'd be in the 10s, but yeah.
Sammy Watkins is an enigma to me.
I was gonna say, let's get to the 10s right now. Sammy Watkins.
DeAndre Hopkins.
I have to ask this question while we're here. Now that we're in the 10s, why didn't Rashad Green translate up?
Just looking through this, I mean, same with Peter Warwick. How didn't he translate up? I mean,
it's so weird to me that the guy so dominant didn't have a higher ceiling, like professional ceiling, like he maxed out in college.
I didn't realize the numbers that Jericho Cotry had at NC State. Good Lord.
Yeah, he put up some serious numbers.
He had some serious numbers.
Yeah, he put up some serious numbers.
And still second by the Warwick.
Now I punished now here's the thing. DeAndre Hopkins gets punished because he was on an amazing team.
Wait, yeah, Sammy Watkins on the other side.
Yeah. So it's not his fault that he only put up 3,000 receiving yards. It's only, right? But my God, how good is that team?
Sammy Watkins is amazing to me because this dude has not played more than like 5 games in a season in years. Yet he is always on somebody's roster.
Because his talent is so undeniable, bro. Like he's really an amazing receiver, but I don't know what it is. Well, number one, he can't stay healthy, and we always talk about the greatest ability is availability. So you got to be on the field to actually play to have an impact. But when he's there, he's great. Like he's great. You got to account for him. So I don't know, man. Sammy Watkins is going to be one of those guys that you look back on his entirety of his career and have the what if.
Yeah.
Man, if he could have just stayed healthy, if he could have just been consistent, if he could have stayed with one team.
Who's roster? She's on somebody.
Yeah. So who are we going with? Is it really just?
I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre?
Yeah.
I think I will join you on that. Isaiah Ford is another one that you go, why didn't that translate up, man? You were so good at Virginia Tech. Why did that not translate up? I'm not sure.
NC State's had some receivers over the years that you just don't even think about it.
Like low key, they have. They've had some real dogs, and it has not resulted in much, but they had some serious players. All right. So let's go to running backs. My running back slides are all over the place, but we'll get them straight here real quick. Okay. The 80s running backs. The 80s running backs. Who are the dominant guys that ran the ball, that toted the rock? Now, this is where I might extend out my this is where I might extend out my the rules again. Because if you go to Miami, if you include Miami and Louisville in some of this, now this gets really interesting.
Yeah. Especially the 90s.
Right, we're getting 90. Yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm just giving you a preview because of the way I may go. There's nobody in the 80s that makes me go, wow.
No. Everything's 90s and beyond.
Maybe Kenny Flowers. Probably. If I gotta pick somebody in the 80s, I would say Kenny Flowers probably. Though those numbers are, they're okay.
It's just crazy looking through the top. I'm on the Athlon looking at the top 25 running backs of all time in the ACC, and it doesn't even go back to the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s running backs don't wow you.
Of course, I have issues with this list because how is Warwick Dunn not even on this list?
He's not on the 90s because we're at the 90s now.
This is all time. I'm
Really?
looking at the all time. My boy Chris Barclay is on there. That's my guy.
So that means that list is null and void. Any list that doesn't include Warwick Dunn, because if you know, Warwick Dunn.
Got Travis Minor, who was Warwick Dunn's backup on here.
No, you can't include an all-time running backs list in the ACC and not have Warwick Dunn on that list. I would say that list is you can throw that list away.
Yeah, that's blasphemy.
Yeah, that's blasphemy. Because in the 90s, we're talking Warwick Dunn. We're talking who else are we talking? We might be talking
Tiki Barber.
Tiki Barber for sure. We're talking Travis Minor, like you said. Oh my God, Natron Means. You remember Natron Means?
Oh yeah.
Natron Means. That's another dude that didn't translate up well, but he was so good at North Carolina. I don't know why. I don't know what was missing when he got to the league, but he didn't. But I thought Natron Means was a great college player.
Bro, I just looked on this list, and Lamar Jackson is the 7th all-time leading rusher.
I saw that. That's insane, by the way. That's insane. 4,000 rushing yards. That's insane. I would say the 90s has got to be Warwick Dunn.
Not only is he's only 800 yards behind Travis Etienne for the all-time leading rusher in ACC history.
That's crazy. That is so crazy.
But yeah, Warwick Dunn is the 12th leading rusher in ACC history, and they didn't have him on the top 25.
Now, if you extend this out to Miami and Louisville, does Mike Bush would be 90s or 2000s?
Bush be 2000s.
Okay, so let's go to 2000. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when we go to 2000s, and there's some here on this list,
the whole Miami backfield for like a 5 to 6 year stretch would be.
I was going to say you beat me to the punch. No, with all due respect to Chris Barclay, and Montel Harris and CJ Spiller, the Miami Louisville, Mike Bush for Louisville.
People forget that there was a point in time in college football when Mike Bush and Adrian Peterson were head to head.
Were considered. You're right. Considered 1A.
Mike broke his leg. 1A. before Mike broke his leg in that Kentucky game.
He was
Which he was well over 100 yards in the first half of that game.
Mike was going to be. I think Mike was well on his way to being an all-time great.
Yep.
He's well on his way to being an all-time great. Similar to who broke his leg in Miami in the championship game against Ohio State.
Was that McGahee?
McGahee, yeah. Similar to Willis McGahee. He doesn't break his leg, Willis McGahee is in some conversations as one of the greats as well. He was so good. He was so dominant. So yeah, Miami and Louisville would move right up the list in ACC if we expand it out like we used in the criteria earlier.
Shout out to my boy Chris Barclay, who people who are we sitting here talking about Michael Bush. Him and Michael Bush played on the same high school team.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? How good was that team? By the way, possibly one of the greatest high school games of all time, Trinity and Mill.
That was after Chris graduated. Because Chris was
was Chris gone?
Chris was gone. Chris was a year older than Mike, I think.
I did not know that. I always thought Chris was on that team because I had just moved here when that game was played.
When Mel was totally loaded the year before, when it was Mike, Chris Barclay, Montrell Jones.
Oh.
They beat Trinity to death.
They beat the brakes off Trinity. Yeah, they beat the brakes off Trinity the year before because I think I was around for that game.
Yeah.
It was the next game that I missed because we had just moved away. But yeah, that maybe, but arguably one of the greatest high school games ever played.
People don't realize who weren't around was Mike played quarterback. They take him out and run. They may line him up at running back just to switch him off. They might line him up receiver. He played safety the whole game. So Mike almost every play of that game.
How many overtimes was that game, by the way?
I only think it went to one time. I
thought it was more than one. Okay.
I remember I was at that game and it was freezing cold and we left.
You left before it was over?
Before it was over.
Wow.
Stupid.
That's crazy. But yeah, I would, including the Miami Louisville, I would give a tie to get McGahee and Bush. Excluding Miami and Louisville, it's Chris Barclay.
I can go with that.
Yeah, it's Chris Barclay. And then of course, was that 2000s?
Yeah. Then
Did we not do it 2000?
That's the 2010s. It's Travis Etienne.
Oh yeah, it's Travis Etienne. Yeah, it's not even
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I would say I'd give the nod to Etienne because he won.
Because you can line him up everywhere, and he was a return guy.
Yeah,
he was just as much of a receiver as he was a running back, and he's still the all-time leading rusher in conference history.
Going to be very interesting seeing what happens this year with he and Lawrence now that they've got stability. I'm very curious to see. Yeah.
Play because he was out all last year.
Right. Now that they've got each other and the stability of the franchise, it seems like everything is kind of calmed down now. It's going to be very interesting to see how he bounces back from this injury and everything. So I'm very curious to see what he looks like. All right, so who you giving your 80s offense to?
The best 80s offense?
It wasn't a lot going on in the ACC.
It's all inclusive, Miami.
Right. If it's all inclusive, it's Miami. Because even Florida State in the 80s, while they were good in the late 80s,
yeah,
it wasn't. They were just starting to find their groove in the late 80s.
Right.
So I would say if it's all inclusive, Miami. If it's not, I don't know, pick them at this point.
Because I know Maryland was in the ACC at that point. Maryland.
But Maryland wasn't like I that's a hard one, man. That is a hard one.
It was 80s is rough going for the ACC.
It was rough. It was rough. There's a reason why they were very, very specific. They had to. They were drowning. So we'll combine 80s and 90s and say 90s. Probably Florida State, yeah.
Florida State offense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was no.
You're throwing in names like Charlie Ward, Warwick Dunn, remember Tamrick Vanover,
Yeah.
E.G. Green.
How difficult is it for Florida? And really 90s football, Florida State is the reason why Florida State fans struggle every year with Florida State football because they're saying,
"Oh yeah,
we remember."
I mean, you look at me. At that point in time, pretty much if Florida State and Miami fans are having the same problems too. Like if you started for those teams, you were going to the league.
Going to the league. You won the league.
It's so fucking like it's a whole generation of kids now who have no relation.
Zero idea.
That was.
Have no idea. They think Miami football is that stupid turnover change they finally got rid of. By the way, I hated that thing from the beginning. I'm so glad that's over with. I hated that thing.
U of L had the boxing gloves.
No. You know what's great? And when you have a turnover, the turnover. You don't need anything else to add to the turnover. It's the turnover itself.
Say to the contrary, I mean I agree with you. The only thing I would say to the contrary is the defense gets very little recognition. I agree, but we got to figure out something better than the turnover change. How about free Papa John's? Oh, you don't do Papa John's anymore. No, they still don't have a stadium. They're supposed to. They say it's going to be soon. I'm like, who's it going to be besides UPS or Humana?
I was going to say it's free healthcare. That's not bad.
Hey, it's got to be either Humana or UPS or Ford. I mean,
I was gonna say it's not a lot of options. Not really a lot of options.
UPS would make the most sense since their planes fly over the stadium the whole game anyway.
Boy, that's a very good point. That's a very good point.
For people who haven't been to a football game at Louisville, as somebody who loves watching the away crowd react to the planes going over because they look close.
Yes.
Because it's right in the landing zone. So the planes are really just flying right over the stadium.
Yeah. I like UPS. I like the UPS stadium.
Yeah, UPS Cardinal Stadium. So
we're going ups. The crowd is going ups. There's a lot of branding opportunity there. We're about to deliver this L to y'all.
It could be Family Stadium like every other stadium in town now.
I agree. Best offense in the 2000s.
That's probably still Florida State.
Are we expanding? Because I can make a case for Miami, a strong case for Miami, especially early 2000s.
Right, early 2000s. You're right.
Yeah. I was gonna say I can make a pretty strong case for Miami. Huh? Yes, it's probably one or two. Yeah.
I mean, and quietly, you can make a quick case for Louisville.
I can make a nice case for Louisville.
That's early Bobby Petrino, and when you had Mike Bush and Brian.
I can make a very strong case for Louisville. I can make a very strong case for Louisville. Now, 2010s, I think it's Clemson and it's not close, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Team. I'm just saying team.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the only competition would be Jameis Winston's Florida State.
Jameis Winston's Florida State team and singularly Lamar Jackson.
All right.
But it just wasn't enough around him.
By the way, they won chips. So
yeah. By the way, we haven't got to ACC preview yet. Next week we'll do Superlatives defense.
And I'll be coming off U of L's media day because U of L.
Oh, perfect. We'll talk about some of that. But by the way, I think there's legitimate fear this year going to ACC in the young man that will be quarterback in Louisville. He seems to have found his maturity lane. He seems to have found his confidence. Huh?
with his red suit at media day.
With his red, listen, if you're wearing a red suit to media day, you know who you are.
You know what's funny about that? That's like when you talk to Malik, that's not his personality.
It's not right. Well,
and reserved. And he's nicest kid you'll meet. He's such a
and I think that's what makes him dangerous this year, because I think he knows who he is now. It's the first year. It's kind of eerily similar to Lamar. Like that first time Lamar ever stepped on the field, everybody was going, okay, I kind of see it, but bro, you got a long way to go.
His very first play on the field was an interception.
Exactly. And you're going, but I think in that same game, he had a run that made you go, okay, now I see why they recruited you, because dude, you're that what I but that jump from that to the next year was similar to Malik's. It was like, okay, I'm starting to see what this is now. And then the next one, you're just like, oh my God.
Well, Lamar, in Malik's defense, Lamar did have more around him at the time. Because I mean,
he did way more.
Brandon Rackler is a super underrated running back.
Absolutely.
Had Jalen Smith at wide receiver that was really, really good. Had Cole Hicatini was a really good tight end for that Louisville team at the time.
Yeah.
Lamar had a lot more around him than Malik has had around him.
Now I think Malik and Lamar, now I think Malik could break out. This could be a big season for him. Quietly.
Malik had a really good season last year.
Yeah, he had a great season with almost nothing.
And really, I mean, close game. I mean, I think out of their losses, they had most of their losses were by less than a touchdown.
Yeah, some of those games that they lost,
they had Wake Forest beat.
They just didn't have anybody break out until like they were learning. They were a young team. They were learning. They were trying to figure it out. Now, though,
last year, if that Wake Forest game goes their way, and the Clemson game, because they had Clemson beat too.
They had Clemson on the ropes. Yeah.
I mean, just those two wins right there, and I'm not having people come to me saying, "You think this is Satterfield's last year?" No, it's not.
No, not
unless they're like atrociously bad. No, and they're not. It's not. He's fine.
Yeah, I think this is the year where now everything that he's been preaching since he got there finally comes together.
One thing that's probably going to keep him is this ridiculous recruiting class he has coming in next year. You can't fire that.
I was going to say that you don't want to lose that class. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Louisville. Well, and we also go into a preview at some point, but it's going to be very interesting to see what he does this year. So I'm excited. I'm glad we did this. This was good. This was very good. I don't know if I mentioned this on this particular show, but I will mention it. Again, shout out my one to one of our brothers who's recovering, Mr. Sam Shake Anderson, who wrote many of the songs that you hear throughout all of our entire platforms. He is recovering from surgery, and I want to send him some love. As much as every day I can send him love, I want to send him love. And so shout out to him to continue to recover and move in the right direction. And then, again, this coffee has given me life this morning. It has been amazing. I'm so excited. I already gave myself a humble flex. Why do I have to?
You brought it back up.
I did. That's fair.
And that was a humble flex.
But it's so good, though, man. So good.
My shout out goes to someone we mentioned earlier in the show, Michael Bush.
Oh, okay.
Finally is going to be in the ring, the ring at U of L in the stadium. They're honoring him at the Florida State game, to which I wish I was going to meet Charlie. But
I didn't mean to give a humble flex to that, but it was.
Well, go ahead and give it to me now, because I'm about to tell you why I'm not going to be at the game.
Oh, okay. Why won't you be at the game?
Because I'll be in France.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a humble flex.
Why will you be in France? What's that about?
Vacation.
Are you able to say that?
Vacation.
We're just vacationing in France now. Probably move on to say.
The south of France. Please excuse the weed eater over on the other side of the fence.
It's quite all right. Listen. Since I've been at my grandmother's, I've done broadcasts where there's been a train going by, where there's been, because I'm right by the street. I'm literally right by the street. And you can hear everything. So we're fine. It's been a fun adjustment. So anyway, I can't complain about any of it. But listen, that is an awesome. I'm hoping to be able to travel a little bit here in the very, very near coming future. So got some interesting news today, so that was nice. So, but anyway, I've enjoyed myself tremendously. We're at some point we're going to definitely start some preview shows because we're gearing up for college football. But these type of shows are fun. Next week we'll do the defense because there have been. While there haven't been some dominant ACC teams in the 80s as far as defense, the 90s and definitely the 2010s were very accommodating.
Go ahead, just look Miami down for 80s.
Listen. We're probably going to be very Miami, Clemson heavy next week. I can promise you that. So be back for that, and I'm sure we'll have a good time. But listen, hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Hope you guys enjoyed. We miss our brother Charlie Ward. As we know, he's not at the Heisman House, but he might be hanging out with his Heisman brothers. I don't know.
One more, just for the sake of it.
I do think that is appropriate.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
I can't wait for him to go back and watch this and go, why am I being humble flexed on my day off? What did I do to deserve that? That's because we love you, brother.
On tape, still in boxes.
There you go. That's what happens. All right, guys. We'll be back next week. Believe in the ACC. We'll see you. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can